Earth had joined the Galactic Confederation only 3 years ago. Ambassador Eliza Morgan got an invitation to attend the Centennial Assembly. The diplomatic team was created quickly after humans discovered faster-than-light travel. Eliza used to be a well-respected international negotiator. Now she had to represent all of humanity to aliens. Ambassador, the Centennial Assembly is where they make big decisions. Her helper Daniel Wright told her as their ship came close to the huge space station near Proxima Centauri. Every alien species sends their best people. This is our first time being included. Eliza nodded and looked at reports on her tablet. We are still on trial as members, right? Yes, ma'am. We need to make them like us if we want full membership rights. The U.S. Horizon docked without much welcome. When Eliza and her small team stepped out, they met a group of Valthrians. These aliens were tall with shiny skin and worked as the Confederation's office staff. Welcome, humans, the lead Valthrian said coldly. Your group has been given observer status only. Follow the rules and do not speak unless the council speaks to you first. Eliza kept her polite smile despite the rude tone. Thank you for telling us. We look forward to learning from the meeting. As they walked to their rooms, Daniel whispered, Did they seem extra rude to you? Diplomacy needs patience, Eliza said quietly. Let's see what happens next. The Grand Assembly Chamber was amazing to see. It was a huge theater filled with aliens from more than 200 different worlds. The building had tall crystal arches that seemed to float, and the middle stand had a 3D display showing the whole Milky Way galaxy. Eliza and her team, Daniel, Dr. Samantha Collins, and Security Chief Alan Patterson, sat in the far back row, clearly marked as watchers, not participants. The section for people on trial, Samantha said under her breath. We might as well watch from our ship. As the meeting started, it became clear that many aliens were talking about humans. The Drenari representative, a lizard-like being with fancy head crests, spoke the loudest. And we must talk about the human problem. They joined too quickly. They barely know how to travel between stars, and their history is full of fighting and primitive wars. They used too many resources to be sustainable. Eliza stayed calm, taking careful notes as other aliens joined the criticism. The Corvex delegate, a being that looked like living crystal, added, Their ability to adapt is dangerous. They have babies quickly and spread like a disease. Look at their own planet. They've taken over every part of it. For hours, they listened as alien after alien raised concerns about humanity. Eliza's team grew more and more uncomfortable, but she showed no emotion, studying the politics at work. They're afraid of us, Daniel whispered. No, Eliza corrected quietly. They're afraid of what we stand for. Change scares those in power. By the end of the first day, Eliza had filled several pages with notes. The aliens had made their position clear. Humans were not welcome in their peaceful galaxy. But as the team headed back to their quarters, Eliza wore a small smile. What's our next move? Ellen asked, concerned about the hostile reception. We listen more, Eliza replied. They've shown their fears. Soon they'll show their weaknesses. And then we'll know exactly what to say. The second day of the Centennial Assembly started with even more aliens arriving. Eliza and her team sat in their observer seats again, watching carefully. Today they will discuss the real issues, Daniel said, checking his tablet. Resource sharing, border rules, and technology exchange. Eliza nodded. And somewhere in there, they will talk about Earth's request for basic medical technology. The main floor filled with hundreds of different alien species. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Eliza couldn't guess which parts were their heads or limbs. The noise was a mix of clicks, humming, and translated voices. The moderator, an ancient being that looked like a floating cloud of purple light, called the meeting to order. The room went quiet. We begin with sector reports, the moderator announced. First, the Drenari will present their findings on border activity in the Orion Arm. The reptilian Drenari representative stood. Instead of talking about borders, he turned toward the human section. Before we continue with routine matters, I must express concerns about the humans attending this assembly, he said. Their planet sits in a strategic position. Their resources are valuable. Yet their species has shown nothing but aggression throughout their history. Samantha gripped her seat. He's not even trying to hide his dislike, she whispered. The Drenari continued. They fought 2 planet-wide wars in just 1 century. They created weapons that could destroy their own world. They drove thousands of their own animal species to extinction, and now we invite them here. Other aliens began to nod and make sounds of agreement. The Corvex delegate stood next. I have analyzed human history. In just 300 years, they went from burning coal to splitting atoms. This rate of development is dangerous and unpredictable. A small blue alien with 6 eyes joined in. They cannot even agree among themselves. They have hundreds of different governments, languages, and belief systems. How can we trust such a divided species? For 3 hours, Eliza and her team listened as alien after alien criticized humanity. They pointed out Earth's pollution problems, violent entertainment, resource waste, and primitive technology. Alan leaned toward Eliza. They're building a case against us. This isn't just complaining. It's coordinated. Eliza stayed calm, making notes and watching which aliens seemed to lead the attacks and which stayed quiet. Finally, a huge alien with gray skin and metal implants stood up. He was nearly 3 times the size of a human. The room went completely silent. I am Admiral Zoltark of the Hegemony, he announced. His voice was so deep that Eliza could feel it in her chest. The Hegemony has protected this confederation for 10,000 years. We have seen species rise and fall. The humans are not ready. He pointed directly at Eliza. Look at them. So fragile, so emotional. Their bodies require constant maintenance. Their minds are filled with irrational fears. They live less than 100 years, so they rush through existence with no thought for consequences. Admiral Zoltark turned to the moderator. I formally request that Earth's application for technology exchange be denied. Furthermore, I propose that human expansion be restricted to their home system for at least 500 years, until they have proven themselves worthy. Cheers and sounds of approval filled the chamber. Eliza's team looked at her with concern, but she remained focused, watching as the pieces fell into place. Ambassador, Daniel said quietly, they're trying to trap us in our own solar system. Yes, Eliza replied, her eyes never leaving Admiral Zoltark. This was their plan all along. The question is, who benefits most from keeping us isolated? She made one final note in her tablet. Find allies among those who remain silent. The 3rd day of the assembly felt tense. News of Admiral Zoltark's proposal had spread through the giant space station. Eliza noticed alien delegates watching her team in the hallways. They're treating us like we're dangerous animals, Alan said as they walked to the assembly chamber. Security has doubled near our quarters. Let them watch, Eliza replied calmly. We have nothing to hide. When they arrived at their seats, Eliza found a small device waiting for her. It was a message cube from one of the quieter species, the Nixteri, beings that looked like moving shadows with silver eyes. The message was simple. Some fear what they do not understand. Others fear what they understand too well. Watch for friends among the silent ones. Eliza slipped the cube into her pocket just as the moderator called the meeting to order. Today we discuss resource allocation and technology sharing. The ancient being announced. First on our agenda is Earth's request for medical technology exchange. A holographic display showed Earth's formal request. Access to the Confederation's basic disease prevention methods in exchange for Earth's unique approaches to cellular regeneration. Before any discussion could begin, Admiral Zoltark stepped forward again. Honored Assembly, his deep voice rumbled. Why waste time on this? The humans need to prove themselves before receiving any of our technology. Several alien delegates nodded in agreement. Their history speaks for itself, the Admiral continued. They used their first atomic technology to create weapons. They used their first space technology for military satellites. They used their first genetic technology to make designer pets. Can we trust them with our medical advancements? The insults were clear. Samantha's face turned red with anger. Daniel stared at his tablet, his jaw tight. Even Alan, trained to keep calm in all situations, looked ready to object. But Eliza remained perfectly still, watching the political game unfold. A small delegate with feathers raised a limb. Perhaps we should hear from the humans. Their request seems reasonable. Admiral Zoltark laughed, a booming sound that made several smaller aliens jump. What could they possibly say? Their own history condemns them. He walked to the center of the chamber, his massive form dominating the space. Let me be clear about these humans. They are not like us. They evolved from aggressive hunter apes. Violence is in their DNA. Their bodies pump chemicals into their blood when threatened, chemicals that make them irrational and dangerous. He turned to look directly at Eliza. In their short history, they have created over 14,000 different weapons. They have fought more than 15,000 separate wars. Their entertainment glorifies conflict. Their children play games about killing. The chamber grew uncomfortably quiet. And yet, he continued, they stand before this ancient assembly and ask to be treated as equals. They have not earned this right. I propose we not only reject their technology request, but also implement a containment protocol. The term sent whispers through the chamber. Containment was serious. It meant restricting a species to their home system and limiting their contact with other worlds. Humans move too quickly, change too rapidly, and think too chaotically to be trusted with freedom among the stars, Admiral Zoltark concluded. For the safety of all civilized species, they must be contained until they evolve beyond their primitive nature, a process that will take at least 5 centuries. As he finished, many delegates began making sounds of agreement. The chamber filled with the noise of approval. Then, unexpectedly, the moderator raised its glowing limbs for silence. Protocol requires that the accused be given a chance to speak, the ancient being said. All eyes turned toward the human delegation. Ambassador Morgan of Earth, the moderator called. You may address the assembly. A heavy silence filled the giant chamber as Eliza stood up. Every alien eye watched her walk slowly to the speaker's platform. Admiral Zoltark smiled, sure that no human could answer his powerful speech. Daniel gave Eliza a worried look. They had prepared many speeches, but none for a situation this bad. Samantha closed her eyes, afraid to watch. Alan stood straight, ready to protect his ambassador if needed. Eliza stepped onto the platform. The translator device activated, ready to change her words into all the alien languages. She looked around the room, taking her time. This was the moment that would decide humanity's future among the stars. Honored members of the Galactic Confederation, she began. Her voice was calm and clear. I thank you for allowing me to speak. She paused, looking directly at Admiral Zoltark. I have listened to all that has been said about humanity. You have called us violent. You have called us primitive. You have listed our wars, our mistakes, and our flaws. Another pause. The room was completely quiet. I will not deny any of it. Surprised whispers spread through the crowd. They had expected her to argue or make excuses. Humanity has fought terrible wars. We have hurt our planet. We have created weapons that could destroy ourselves. These are facts of our history that I cannot and will not deny. Admiral Zoltark nodded, thinking he had won. But Eliza continued, her voice growing stronger. There is something important that Admiral Zoltark and others have missed about humans. She touched a control, and the big display in the center of the room changed. It showed Earth after World War I. Cities destroyed, millions dead. This was Earth just 200 years ago. We nearly destroyed ourselves. She touched another control. The image changed to show modern Earth. Blue oceans, green forests, and clean cities. And this is Earth today. She looked around the room. In just 6 human generations, we rebuilt our world. We cleaned our air and water. We regrew our forests. We learned from our mistakes. More images appeared. Humans helping each other after disasters. Scientists working together to cure diseases. People from different countries joining hands in peace. You say we are violent because we fought 15,000 wars. I say we are peaceful because we ended 15,000 wars. You say we are dangerous because we create weapons. I say we are brave because despite having weapons, we choose cooperation. Eliza walked slowly around the platform, making eye contact with different alien delegates. The Admiral says our emotions make us unstable, but our emotions also give us empathy, the ability to feel others' pain and joy as our own. This is why humans will rush into danger to save strangers. This is why we care for animals that give us nothing in return. This is why we cry at art and music. She stopped and faced the entire assembly. You fear our rapid development. But consider this. What species in this room went from horse-drawn carts to walking on their moon in just 66 years? What species went from burning coal to fusion energy in 300 years? What species faced their own violent nature and chose to rise above it? Her voice became gentle but firm. You judge us by our past, but we should be judged by our direction. Every day, humans work to be better than we were yesterday. We make mistakes, yes, but we learn from them faster than any species in this room. Then came the words that would be remembered across the galaxy. We are not perfect, but unlike most species here, we are still young enough to remember our mistakes. And that memory, that awareness of our own flaws, is our greatest strength, not our weakness. Admiral Zoltark's confident smile had disappeared. The assembly room remained completely silent. Eliza's words hung in the air. For almost a full minute, no one in the giant chamber spoke. Then, all at once, the room exploded with noise. Some aliens shouted in anger. Others buzzed with excitement. Many just talked quickly to their neighbors. The moderator had to flash bright lights 3 times to quiet the room. This session will take a break, the ancient being announced. We will return in 3 hours to continue. As Eliza walked back to her team, she could feel hundreds of alien eyes following her. Some looked curious, others respectful, and many still angry. That was amazing, Daniel whispered as they left the chamber. I've never heard anything like it. It was the truth, Eliza said simply. Sometimes the truth is the most powerful weapon. Security guards escorted them back to their quarters. The halls were filled with aliens discussing what had happened. Some moved away when the humans passed. Others tried to get closer. Once inside their safe room, the team finally relaxed. Do you think it worked? Samantha asked, pouring water for everyone. Alan shook his head. Hard to tell. Admiral Zoltark looked ready to explode. It wasn't just about changing his mind. Eliza explained, sitting down heavily. The speech had taken more energy than she showed. It was about reaching the quiet ones, the species who haven't spoken against us. A message alert sounded. The screen showed a request for a private meeting from an unexpected source. Elder Sover of the Nixteri, one of the oldest and most respected species in the Confederation. Accept it, Eliza said quickly. The screen changed to show a being that looked like living darkness, with small silver stars for eyes. Ambassador Morgan. The Nixteri's voice was like gentle wind chimes. Your words today have stirred memories long forgotten by many. I am 700 years old, and I remember when my own species was judged harshly by the elder races. Eliza bowed respectfully. Thank you for reaching out, Elder Sover. You should know that the assembly is in chaos. Many old alliances are being questioned. The younger species are speaking up. And Admiral Zoltark has called for an emergency meeting of the High Council. Daniel looked worried. Is that bad? The silver eyes blinked. It is significant. The High Council has not met in over 50 years. They will decide whether to vote on the containment proposal immediately or allow further discussion. And which way will they lean? Eliza asked. The council has 7 members. 3 are firmly with Zoltark, 2 are uncertain. 1 is with me. And the 7th? Elder Sover paused. The 7th is the moderator itself, who has not cast a vote in over 200 years. The screen suddenly flashed with a public announcement. The next assembly meeting would begin in 1 hour, not 3 as planned. They're rushing the vote, Alan said. They want to act before your speech can change too many minds. Elder Sovar nodded. You have made powerful enemies today, Ambassador, but you have also awakened something important. The memory that every species here was once young, struggling, and imperfect. After the Nixteri ended the call, Eliza stood up. We need to prepare. They'll try to silence us, but we must be ready to speak again if given the chance. As they worked quickly to prepare new arguments, their door chime sounded. Alan checked the security screen and looked surprised. It's a young hegemony officer, he said. Says his name is Krelvor. Eliza looked up sharply. Krelvor. That's Admiral Zoltark's son. Daniel stepped back. This could be a trap. Or an opportunity, Eliza said. She nodded to Alan. Let him in, but stay alert. The door slid open to reveal a younger version of the Admiral. He stood tall, but his eyes showed uncertainty. Ambassador Morgan, he said formally, I must speak with you. Immediately, Krelvor entered the room carefully. He looked much like his father, Admiral Zoltark, but younger and without the many honor marks on his skin. His eyes moved nervously around the room. Thank you for seeing me, Ambassador, he said. His voice was deep, but not as harsh as his father's. What I am doing could be seen as treason by my people. Alan stayed close to Eliza, hand near his weapon. Daniel and Samantha watched from across the room. Why are you here? Eliza asked directly. Krelvor took a small device from his pocket and placed it on the table. It projected a star map showing a distant part of the galaxy. This is the Helios Rift, he explained, a system with 18 planets that no one has been able to settle. The radiation and gravity problems are too difficult. Eliza studied the map. Why show us this? Because after hearing your speech, I remembered something from my studies. 3 different Confederation species have tried to live there. All failed. But humans, he hesitated. Humans adapt quickly to problems that would defeat others. Daniel moved closer. You're suggesting we offer to colonize this system? Krelvor nodded. The Helios Rift has valuable resources and a strategic position. If humans could succeed where others failed, it would prove your worth to the Confederation in a way that speeches cannot. Eliza looked at the young officer carefully. And why would you help us? Your father wants us contained. My father fears change, Krelvor said quietly. He has led the hegemony for 300 years. But some of us younger ones see that the Confederation has become stuck. No new ideas, no progress. He looked directly at Eliza. Your speech made me remember why we formed the Confederation in the first place, to share strengths and overcome weaknesses together. The door alert sounded. Time was running out before the emergency session. How would this work? Eliza asked quickly. Propose a challenge, Krelvor explained. Ask for 20 Earth years to establish a colony in the Helios Rift. If you succeed, the containment proposal must be permanently rejected. If you fail, you accept the restrictions. 20 years is nothing for species that live for centuries, Samantha pointed out. Krelvor smiled for the first time. Exactly. The older races will think it's an impossible task in such a short time. They'll agree because they believe you'll fail. Eliza studied the star map again. We'll need observers from the Confederation to verify our progress. I would volunteer, Krelvor said. Others would join too. As they talked through details, Daniel prepared the formal proposal. The minutes ticked by quickly. They're calling all delegates back, Alan reported, checking the announcement screen. We need to go now. Krelvor stood. I must return separately. If my father suspects I helped you. Thank you, Eliza said sincerely. Whatever happens, you've shown courage today. The young officer nodded once and left quickly through a side door. When the human team entered the assembly chamber again, they could feel the difference. Many alien delegates watched them with new interest. Others deliberately turned away. The moderator called for order. The High Council has met and decided to allow a direct vote on Admiral Zoltark's containment proposal. Admiral Zoltark stood proudly in the center. The evidence against allowing unrestricted human expansion is clear. For the safety of all civilized species, they must be contained to their home system for at least 500 years. He looked at Eliza with cold eyes. No amount of pretty speeches can hide the danger humans represent. I call for an immediate vote. The moderator's glowing form seemed to dim slightly. As is traditional, before the vote, we will hear any alternative proposals. The ancient being turned toward Eliza. Does Earth wish to present an alternative? Admiral Zoltark laughed. What possible alternative could there be to containment? Eliza stood and walked calmly to the speaker's platform. She activated the display system, showing the Helios Rift system to the entire assembly. Honored delegates, she began. Earth proposes a challenge. The giant display showed the Helios Rift system floating above the assembly. Many aliens leaned forward with interest. The system was famous for its dangers and failed colonies. Earth proposes a challenge, Eliza continued. Give humanity 20 Earth years to create a successful colony in the Helios Rift. Surprised whispers spread through the chamber. Admiral Zoltark's eyes narrowed with suspicion. 3 different species have tried to settle this system, Eliza said. All have failed because of the radiation problems and gravity changes. These challenges defeated even advanced Confederation technology. She walked slowly around the platform, making sure all delegates could see her. You have called humans adaptable. You have called this a weakness, a sign that we are unstable. I say it is our greatest strength. We evolved on a changing planet with many natural disasters. We learned to survive by adapting quickly. The display changed to show Earth scientists working on new shield designs. We propose to use our adaptability to solve the Helios Rift problem. If we fail, we will accept the containment restrictions. But if we succeed, we ask for full membership in the Confederation with no restrictions. Admiral Zoltark stepped forward. This is a trick. Even if they somehow manage to start a small base there, it proves nothing about their worthiness to join us as equals. Eliza turned to face him directly. Then let's add conditions. We will allow observers from any species to watch our progress. And if we succeed, we will share all technology we develop for the Rift with the entire Confederation. The room filled with excited discussion. Many species had wanted the resources in the Helios Rift for centuries. Elder Sover of the Nyx Terrae floated forward. I support this proposal. It is fair and gives humanity a chance to prove their worth through actions, not just words. The moderator's glowing form brightened. We shall vote on both proposals. First, Admiral Zoltark's containment proposal. The voting system activated. Across the chamber, delegates registered their choices. Everyone watched the main display as the results appeared. The containment proposal, 114 in favor, 112 against. Admiral Zoltark smiled in triumph. But before he could speak, the moderator continued. Now we vote on Earth's Helios Rift challenge. Again, the votes were cast. The results appeared. The Helios challenge. 117 in favor, 109 against. The chamber erupted in confusion. 2 different proposals had passed. This is impossible, Admiral Zoltark shouted. You cannot approve both containment and a challenge at the same time. The moderator's ancient voice cut through the noise. In cases of conflicting approved proposals, Confederation law states that the proposal with more votes takes precedence. The Admiral's face darkened with anger. This was your plan all along, he said to Eliza. You turned my own people against me. Eliza shook her head. No, Admiral. I simply reminded everyone that growth comes from facing challenges, not avoiding them. This is true for species as well as individuals. 5 Earth years later, Eliza stood on the observation deck of the New Horizon colony on Helios 3. The first domed city was complete, with special shields protecting it from the system's radiation. In the gardens, plants from Earth grew under carefully designed light systems. Beside her stood Krelvor, now the official hegemony observer. His father had sent him there as punishment, but he had come to respect the human colonists. Your shield technology is impressive, he admitted. Our scientists believe it could help protect worlds affected by dying stars in other parts of the galaxy. Eliza nodded. We're happy to share our research, as promised. They watched as a new ship arrived, bringing more colonists and scientists from Earth. My father still believes this experiment will end in disaster, Krelvor said. He says some younger hegemony officers are too friendly with humans now. Change is difficult for those who have lived a long time without it, Eliza replied, but necessary for growth. As they talked, Daniel approached with exciting news. The first outdoor crops are showing success. The modified plants are thriving in the adjusted soil. Another step toward proving humanity's worth to the galaxy, not through speeches or promises, but through solving problems that others could not. Humanity had been insulted, judged, and nearly contained. But with one diplomat's reply and the work that followed, they had begun to change the galaxy's opinion, one challenge at a time.